Welcome to Reading Academic English. We'll be looking at a new article today. This article comes from, I can point over here, Psychology Today. And so a psychology article. And so we're going to do the same thing that we've done before, which is not to read the article completely, but instead just try to get a sense of the general idea. And then we can decide later if this is something we want to read more thoroughly or more completely. And so I have moved this over to a Word document so that I can write on it. Again, I will provide this the link to the article below. But so let's take a look at it. So I want to just begin by noticing that the category in psychology, the category that they have given is motivation. And I see that they've used the term motivation in the title. So motivation, so here's the title. Let's read the title, see what we can understand. Number one, first thing, important thing. Motivation and activation. Why do you need both? All right, motivation. What does motivation mean? Motivation, that is the inner desire, the inner will to do something. That motivation to get something done, that you want to get something done. You want to do something. That's your motivation. Activation. I don't know. This is new. So activation, so we think of the word active and of doing something. But to see the word activation like this is new for me. I haven't seen activation used in this way. I have a guess about the meaning here, but I'm not entirely sure. So I will tell you my guess. Because the article is focused on motivation is the main thing, it seems to be saying that motivation, which is what you want to do, is not enough. So you need to want to do it, and you need to want to do it, and you need to actually do it or start it or begin to do it. So to want it and to do it. Whatever that action is. So it's not enough just to have the desire, but you have to follow it with action. I guess that's what they're saying here, activation. Or maybe it's to begin to do it. To begin, so I could add that there. Maybe they're not talking about of doing it, but to begin, to begin to do it, maybe. To begin, oh, come on. Where's my pen? Boom, boom. There we go. Where's my pen? Boom. Wow, it gives me like one shot to begin to do it. There we go. Oh my goodness. To begin to do it. All right. To want and to begin to do it. To begin to do it. Maybe that's what it means. I'm not sure. Let's take a look at the secondary title. How exploring your activation patterns can help you get things done. Here again, activation, I'm not sure. And then patterns. Activation patterns. Patterns. So what does this mean? Are we talking about habits, maybe? Are we talking about routine? I'm not sure. I'm interested in this. routine. If I can spell routine. There we are. Are we talking about habits? Are we talking about routines? Routine. What are we talking about here? I'm not sure. My guess, that's my guess. My guess is that people have their own habits or routines, and understanding what those are can help us get started or begin to do something. That's my guess. All right, great. So, motivation and activation. So the next thing I'm going to do is take a look at the first paragraph and look at the last paragraph, the conclusion, right? And then afterwards, we'll take a look at these section headings. By the way, I do like to number these sections. With this opening section, we'll call 1. The beginning here, this is the intro, the introduction, the introduction. So that's 1, 2, 3, and the last one I believe will be 4. Maybe they're 5, I can't remember. So 4. Take a look here. Do we have 5? Yeah, 4, just 4. Okay, so 4 sections. But let's start here with our introduction, the first paragraph. Cassie, a young adult I knew many years ago, was excited about starting a fabulous new job at a sought-after design firm. She was highly motivated to do well. She had always been a high achiever and was driven to do the hard work to shine in her new position. All right, so that's our first paragraph. That is our first paragraph. So what can we understand from this first paragraph? So clearly, this is the beginning of a story, and it's kind of a hook because I'm interested in this story. We learn about a person, Cassie. This is her name, right? Cassie, a young adult I knew many years ago, was excited about starting a fabulous, an amazing new job at a sought-after design firm. What is sought after? What is the word sought? Sought is the past tense of seek. And seek is if people are looking for it. So sought after is being used here as an adjective to, even though sought is a verb, after is a preposition, and we've got a combination here that's making an adjective of this company, right? So sought after, people are looking for this. So it's a highly desired position or a job. So she was highly motivated to do well. Okay, great. She had always been a high achiever and was driven, right? We use this word driven to mean motivated, to be highly motivated, to do the hard work and to shine in her new position, right? To glow, to shine, to be like a star, to shine like a star. A star, right? She was motivated. All right. So this is the introduction. There's my start. All right. What can we understand about the contents of this article? What do we expect to learn about reading further? Because this is an introduction, we're introducing this person named Cassie. because we understand that the article is about motivation and that this Cassie, I see these words in here. So this was many years ago. She was excited. She was highly motivated. She had always been a high achiever, was driven to do the hard work. So we're talking about it in the past, and it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a change, but I feel like we're being set up for a problem. We're being set up for a failure. We're being set up for something that did not work out. Cassie at the beginning wanted to do well, but I feel like this is setting up for a problem. Now, I'm not going to read any more now, but by cheating, I can already tell I can already tell that the first word of the next paragraph is unfortunately. So we know that there is some problem. But I don't want to get into Cassie's story further right now. I will get into it. I am curious enough to read more about this. I want to know what the problem was. But right now, I'm just trying to get this general sense of what the article will be talking about. So we're going to leave Cassie for the moment, and we're going to skip all the way down to the end of the article, and we're going to read the conclusion. So here is our conclusion. So again, as before, when we read the conclusion before having read the rest of the article, we can't expect to understand everything. And it is not our goal to understand everything. Our goal is to simply verify that our assumptions that we've made about the content of the article, that those assumptions are accurate, that they're true, that these assumptions that this is about, actually, let me ask this. Does this seem to be giving advice? Because some of the articles in the past that we've looked at, some are just reporting on a study, maybe explaining a problem, maybe explaining some breakthrough research, an accomplishment, an achievement, and some for giving advice. On this website, Psychology Today, it's not always true, but there seems to be a lot of these advice, these articles that are giving advice. And because we have this can help you, then and why you need what you need, it seems to be giving advice. That again, as before, we are getting some kind of advice from the article. All right, but let's read this conclusion and see what we can understand. When you or your child or your student struggle with doing tasks, a helpful approach is to be curious with yourself or that child. Try not to assume that it's a problem of low motivation, but rather consider what might be getting in the way of activating to something, even if you or they are motivated. Exploring motivation is vital to achieving our goals, but unless we dig deeper into activation factors, it will be much harder to get there. All right, so this seems to be a conclusion that is summing up some basic advice. Again, I'm not exactly sure. We have this activation factors. Activation to something. I'm not entirely sure what this means. But the rest we can look at this here. So when you or your child or your student struggle with doing tasks, right? It's difficult. It's difficult to get things done. It's difficult to accomplish something. A helpful approach is to be curious. To be curious with yourself or that child. A helpful approach is to be curious. All right, so what does curious mean? So again, interested in solving the question of why. Why? Right? I think, now again, this is the conclusion, so I'm not sure. What are we curious about? We're curious about, are we curious about the task? Or are we curious about the struggle? I don't know. I'm not sure. Try not to assume, the good word, assume, that it's a problem of low motivation, but rather consider what, oh, here we go. Here's the curious part. What might be getting in the way? What might be getting in the way? What might be getting in the way of activating to something, even if you or they are motivated? Interesting. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what is meant here. It seems to be that we are to be curious about, so what might be getting in the way? This is like a block or a barrier, something that's stopping, something that's preventing moving forward, right? What might be getting in the way? It's like a stop sign. We've got this is my wonderful stop sign. Stop. Stop. What might be getting in the way of activating to something? Even if you or they are motivated. Exploring motivation, I'll get rid of that. Exploring motivation is vital to achieving our goals. But unless we dig deeper, right, be curious and dig deeper into activation factors, it will be much harder to get there. All right. So a lot of this conclusion is focused on these activation factors. And we will have to dig deeper into the article. We will have to dig deeper to understand what is meant by activation factors. But for now, this is enough. This is enough to look at the general idea. Oh, by the way, assume. I mentioned assume, but I didn't talk about assume. What is the meaning of assume? Try not to assume. So assume is to come to a conclusion or an answer, but without, it's kind of like a guess. You're guessing. You're making a guess about something. So don't guess that it is a problem of low motivation. So I think that's probably the best word to say it, is like making a guess. But you really don't know. Okay, so don't assume. All right, that's enough for the conclusion. Next, what I'd like to do is look at all of these headings. So although there are 4 sections, there are only 3 section headings. 1, 2, and 3. This is just part of the introduction here. So let's start with this one and see what we can understand. See what kind of a guess we can make about the contents of this section. All right, section 2. Emotions can energize or drain activation energy. Emotions can energize or drain activation energy. Okay, we have energy here 2 times, kind of. We have energize, which is our verb. And we have energy, which is our noun form. We have noun and a verb. So emotions can energize or, oh, I see. Okay, this is what's going on here. So it's saying that emotions can give us energy So energize is to give us energy, right? Can give us energy, or it can drain. Drain is negative, to take it away, like to drain your battery on your phone. So it's like you can plug in your phone, energize your phone, or you can drain your phone's energy. Here again, activation. I'm not sure about this, still not sure about activation, but this is what I see, that this is a positive and negative situation here. Make it a little bit. That's terrible. I'll just leave it like that. Okay. So emotions. So the key idea here seems to be emotions. That emotions can give you energy or take away energy. That seems basic, but it's not just energy. It's not just energy. It's activation energy. What is activation? Don't know. All right, so that's that section. Section 2. Section 3. Long-term motivations need short-term activation. All right, here we have activation again. I really need to know what they mean by activation. Long-term motivations need short-term activation. All right, so we're making another contrast or comparison between long-term, short-term. My guess is, so a long-term motivation. So maybe you have a goal in your life that will take 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year, maybe multiple years. Maybe you have a long-term motivation to, you're in medical school and you have years of education to get through. That's a long-term, and you want to do it, right? You have a will to do it. This is a long-term motivation. But with this need, it's saying that this is not enough. It's not enough. That you have to add to that. You need short-term activation. So long-term motivation by itself is not enough. You need to add short-term activation. And this actually reminds me of our title. Long-term motivations need short-term activation. If we go back up to our title, it's motivation and activation. Why do you need both? You need both of these. But it's interesting in that section that they are stressing long-term motivation and short-term activation. Again, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. Long-term motivations need short-term activation. Motivations. All right. Okay. Multiple goals. Very good. All right. So that's section 3. And then here's the last section. Section 4. Last section. Motivation and activation are unique and evolving. All right. So here we go. Our motivation and activation again. They are unique and they are evolving. So what does that mean? What is unique? What is the meaning of unique? Unique, it's not the same for everybody. If it's unique, it's to the individual. So what inspires you to do something? What gives you the will to try to accomplish something is going to be particular to you. It won't be the same as mine or whatever, your parents or your brother or your neighbor, whatever. It's unique, right? Unique. But then evolving means it doesn't stay the same. It's changing. So it is specific to a person and it is changing. It is unique. I could say individual, not using individual as a person, but individual as an adjective meaning specific and unique. Individual and And it doesn't necessarily have to stay the same all the time. It's changing. It's something that it's evolving. All right, fair enough. It's unique and evolving. They're unique and evolving. Great. That's the last section, and then we end up with our conclusion, giving advice about activation and activating. Okay, so at this point, I feel like I have a clear idea of what I will learn about, the general idea. I have two questions in my mind, though, that I'd like to answer. And that is, I want to know how the article is defining activation. All right, that's a question I have. And the second question is, I'd like to understand, I'm hooked on the story of Cassie. We started learning about Cassie at the beginning, and the story is interesting enough for me that I want to read the next paragraph just because I'm curious about Cassie. So let's do that first. Let's learn what happened with Cassie and read the next paragraph. Actually, I'll start with Cassie again, the first paragraph, and we'll read paragraphs 1 and 2 together. So again, back to the beginning. Back to the beginning here. Cassie, a young adult I knew many years ago, was excited about starting a fabulous new job at a sought-after, just wanted to hit fabulous. I like that word. Fabulous new job at a sought-after design firm. She was highly motivated to do well. She had always been a high achiever and was driven to do the hard work to shine in her new position. Unfortunately, over the course of the next several months, she developed crushing anxiety that became so severe she was missing work and falling behind on her projects. Even though she remained highly motivated, she was struggling to activate 2 tasks that she used to do with ease. Once her anxiety disorder was treated with therapy and medication, she was able to get back on track. Her activation once again matched her motivation. Interesting. Well, all right. So what happened to Cassie? So here we have this person, Cassie, gets a sought-after position at a design firm. And over the course of the next several months, she developed crushing anxiety. So crushing, being squeezed, being pressed down, unable to move, crushing anxiety. So a lot of fear here. So developed crushing anxiety that became so severe, so extreme, so severe, she was missing work and falling behind on her projects, right? Falling behind, getting behind, later and later on her projects. Late, falling behind. All right. Even though she remained highly motivated, she was struggling, here we go with the activate again, to activate 2 tasks, strange, that she used to do with ease. Her anxiety disorder was treated with therapy and medication. All right. She was able to get back on track. So to get back on track, what does it mean to get back on track? So we think about a train getting back on their track. So the train goes off the rails, off the track, and now we get back on the her original path. Get back on track. Her activation, once again, matched her motivation. Interesting. Okay, so that's her story. So we get, okay, fine. So Cassie had a problem, overcame the problem with therapy and medication, fine. But I still don't know what we mean by activate two tasks and activation. I'm still interested in understanding what that means. So now at this point, I'm kind of, I've looked at a lot of the general idea of the article, but I have a burning question in my mind. I really want to know what this article means by activation in this context. So at this point, I'll probably scan the article. So without reading, I'm not. So there are two important words. If you've had teachers that or these two terms that teachers may have mentioned to you in the past, but to skim and to scan, and these are forms of reading where we're not reading completely, skim and scan, but we are quickly just looking over the page for something specific. For skimming, this is usually you're just trying to get the general idea and just glancing through the text. To scan, you're hunting or looking for something specific. So for me right now is I'm going to scan, and I could just kind of glance at the first sentence of a paragraph, concept of motivation, activating to. Oh, okay. Look at that already in the second paragraph. Okay, so the concept of motivation here. And then activating to task is, so it seems to me, this is my guess, just glancing at the beginning of these two paragraphs, that this paragraph maybe will define motivation, and this paragraph will define activation. I hope that's true. I don't know if it's true, but that's my guess, because this starts out with motivation, this starts out with activating to a task. So I'm not interested in the motivation right now. I don't care about that. So I'm just going to skip to this paragraph right here and see how this is defined. How is the article referring to this? How is the article talking about this? Okay, so let's read this paragraph. Activating to a task is starting the work that you need to do to achieve what motivates you. Activating to a task is starting the work that you need to do to achieve what motivates you. Okay. I would ask you, what is the most important word in this sentence for, besides activating, to help us understand what we're talking about here? I would argue that the most important word here for me is this word, starting. Because I had a question at the very beginning when we were looking at this. Was it to do something, or was it to begin to do something? I didn't know. It could be activation to start it or to do it. I didn't know how they were going to focus on that. So we have our answer. It is to begin. Oops, I missed my... Oh, right here. So activating to task is starting or beginning the work that you need to do to achieve what motivates you. I may be motivated to write this article because I want to share this information and get people thinking about it. But if I don't activate to the tasks of turning off a Gilmore Girls rerun, oh my goodness, opening my computer, pulling up a document and starting to type, I won't achieve the goal I am motivated toward. Motivation is necessary, but insufficient. Insufficient. Activation is the secret sauce. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So this is the paragraph I needed to more fully understand what this article is really about. So activating to a task is to do those actions that start on a project. And so for her example, she talked about writing an article, right? If she is motivated to write this article, she's motivated to write it. But in order to activate to a task, she needs to take action to begin. So what are the activation to begin? So this is a show that my wife likes a lot, The Gilmore Girls. So she's got to turn off a TV show, turn off Netflix, turn off YouTube, whatever. So turning off a Gilmore Girls rerun, so this is a show, and then opening her computer, pull up a document, and start to type. If she doesn't start doing that, she won't achieve the goal. So motivation is necessary, but insufficient. What does insufficient mean? Not enough. Insufficient. Not insufficient. Not enough. It's important, but it's not the only thing that we need. It's not enough. Not enough. Activation is the secret sauce. What does that mean? What is the secret sauce? It's like the magic ingredient. It's like the hidden, mysterious ingredient that you need to make something taste good when you're cooking. But here it is that element that maybe you haven't thought of, but that is necessary. It's a necessary ingredient, I could say, the hidden ingredient. The secret sauce. All right, fine. I don't need to define that any more than that. Okay, great. Secret sauce. All right, wonderful. So now that I understand that, I want to revisit these headings for just a moment. So if activation means to begin to do it, so emotions can energize or drain activation energy. Okay, sure. I mean, that's straightforward. How you feel. Long-term motivations need short-term activation. Okay, interesting. Again, it could be related to emotion. Motivation and activation are unique and evolving. All right. I think the last thing I'm going to do with this article is I see that, let's see. So for section 2, section 3, section 4. All right, I think I might just look at the first paragraph of each section. Just look at that first paragraph, and that first paragraph. And then I think that'll be enough. But now that I understand that activation is to begin to do something, I'm curious about how they're going to go deeper into this. The topic, I mean, it seems pretty straightforward, pretty basic. But let's take a look at this paragraph. Activation and motivation zigzag through numerous brain and body functions, such as thinking, feeling, moving, and socializing. Strong emotions, positive and negative, can drive motivation and activation. Okay, this seems to just repeat the basic idea of this title. Zigzag, what does zigzag mean? Zigzag. Zigzag is the back and forth movement like this. Zigzag, zigzag. And it just means it's changing. Or changing or moving through, I guess. It's moving through between the brain and the body. So brain, body, brain, body, brain, body. So moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, zigzag. Thinking, feeling, moving, socializing, right? Hanging out with friends, family. All right. Pretty basic. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's take a look at the next first paragraph for part 3, section 3. Long-term motivations need short-term activation. Our motivations occur along a continuum of long-term and short-term time frames. If we are motivated towards something further into the future, such as going to college or getting a particular job, we will need to activate to many short-term tasks along the way, many of which will be less exciting than our long-term goals. Okay, this is true. Often they are difficult, so activating to them may be a heavy lift. Okay, what does this mean? What's the main idea here? Our motivations occur along a continuum. What does that mean? What is a continuum? Of long-term and short-term time frames. What does that mean? Time frames. So a continuum is like degrees. So what they're saying here is that the long-term and short-term aren't so separate, but they're gradually different. So the long-term goals, the long-term time frames, we should use the word time frames. Time frames, are we talking about days? Are we talking about months? Are we talking about years? These are different time frames, right? And depending, like if you talk to a child about a long-term, about what they think is long-term, they may be talking about hours. You tell a child, you have to wait for dinner for 1 hour, they may think this is so impossibly long-term. So it's, there's a variety here. The main idea is that I like about this paragraph is that this is so true. So we have the long-term, let's say I have a long-term goal of getting a new college degree in something that I'm not, I don't know, let's say a history degree or something, and I'm excited to learn about ancient Rome. So that's exciting, that the end of the long-term goal is the most exciting part of this, right? This is what motivates you the most. So the long-term motivation to get to the end, that is the most exciting. So then the short-term goals are going to be almost always, almost necessarily less exciting, maybe even boring. Maybe it's a drudgery. It won't be so thrilling and exciting for the days. At the end of those, whatever 2 years or however long it takes, that's exciting. But to get up every day and to do the little short-term tasks, that's going to be potentially boring, difficult. So that's the challenge here. The challenge. Short-term activation is important, right? So there's many short-term tasks along the way. Often they are difficult, these short-term tasks. So activating to them may be a heavy lift. It's a difficulty, right? It's hard to lift it up, a heavy lift, right? Pulling up my weights. You know what I mean? Like at the gym, the weights, however many pounds, picking up those weights, a heavy lift. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. All right. Great. Very, very interesting. Last paragraph we're going to read right here. Last one. So for part 4, motivation and activation are unique and evolving. Every person's motivation and activation profiles develop uniquely from childhood into adulthood, and they continue to fluctuate and change over the years. Factors such as ADHD, learning patterns, physical illness, fatigue, hunger, trauma, depression, anxiety, temperament, personality traits, social drive, and many other brain and body patterns play vital roles in motivation and activation. Okay, so what's the main idea here? It sounds like just a description of all the specific challenges that a person might face when trying to achieve something. These are the challenges, and to activate the, what we've been talking about here, to activate to a task. So every person's motivation and activation, then we have the word profiles. So motivation and activation. What is a profile? So a profile is the specific characteristics of a person. Like to have a profile, something that is unique about that person. So every person's motivation, activation profiles are specific to them. They develop uniquely. They start from childhood, and they continue to fluctuate. What does fluctuate mean? Fluctuate. What does fluctuate? Fluctuate. Move back and forth. Evolve. Change. Could I use zigzag? I guess I could say zigzags maybe more about movement, but it's this idea. Up, down, change. It fluctuates. Fluctuates, and change. What's the difference between fluctuate and change? I don't know. No difference in my mind. Fluctuate and change over the years. Factors such as ADHD, which is a psychological issue, difficulty focusing, I guess. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know. Learning patterns, physical illness, fatigue. What does fatigue mean? Fatigue, can I get rid of this so I can see it there? I want to keep fluctuate. Fatigue is just general, to be tired, but to be tired in a severe or extreme, to be severely or... Because that could be a result, fatigue could be a result of illness. Give me how come I can't write on it? Give me there, I want to underline fluctuate. Okay, fluctuate, fatigue, to be extremely tired. Trauma, what about trauma? Another psychological difficulty or struggle, having undergone a difficult situation and suffering from trauma. Depression. So as fatigue is extreme, to be tired, extremely tired, depression is extremely sad. Anxiety with fear, extreme fear, severe fear, extreme fear. So to be tired, hunger, of course, hungry. Temperament, this is a personality trait. How angry or relaxed or temperament. This is maybe you've heard someone, don't lose your temper. If you lose your temper, someone maybe gets angry more easily than someone else. Social drive, how much you like hanging around other people, and many other patterns play vital, important roles. Play vital roles in motivation and activation. All right. Anyway, the main idea here is all of these different details, all of these specific traits will make one person's motivation and activation different than someone else's. That's the idea. Okay, well, that's enough for this article. We've done a lot of work here analyzing the general idea of the article. And from this point, what would I do? At this point, what I'd probably do is skim the article. Just give myself probably 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. And again, I wouldn't try to understand all of it. I wouldn't try to read every word, but I would just skim the article for 2 minutes. And then if I decided after that I wanted to read every single word, I would. Or there might be just one section I want to focus on. And the way I feel about it right now is that, because I don't know what kind of advice, I mean, just skimming, I'm kind of curious about the advice. And I'm kind of skimming it right now, just as I'm talking to you, I'm just kind of skimming it. And a couple things jump out at me. Kind of three things have jumped out at me. So I already talked about the Gilmore Girls being a TV show. I see Beyonce and Taylor Swift for some reason. I don't know why we're talking about that. But then the last thing I've noticed are these right here. M&Ms. What is this? M&Ms. This is candy, right? We're talking about candy. Oh, I didn't zoom in here more. So M&Ms. So that's interesting. I might be curious to see what they mean about that. But anyway, that's enough. Having a general overview of the article, some vocabulary to consider. If you have any questions for me related to this article, related to anything I've said, specific words or vocabulary, please put questions below and I will answer your questions. But otherwise, this is just another exercise in reading. I call it academic reading, even though it's journalistic article, but that's fine. Yeah, great. Thank you for hanging out, and I will see you next time. Take care. Have a great day.